Welcome to BlizzCon 2017 coverage, brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is BlizzPro's ongoing coverage of BlizzCon 2017. I am Alebeard. I'm here with DJTyrant. We're ready to talk about Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, and there was a lot more announced than I thought there would be. Obviously, there was, if you were following social media, there was a few things pre-announced.
Sadly, yes.
Unfortunately, but so those got confirmed. The two new heroes, Alexstrasza and Hanzo. So those of you I know that watch the Power Hour will be well aware that a lot of us are tired of Overwatch stuff. Well, we're still getting it. But we got a Warcraft support.
At least they gave us something other than Overwatch. We had the one mandatory Overwatch hero, but we did get a little bit of alternative. And a dragon for all the players that have been asking for some kind of dragon. And it was kind of cool at least how they did the dragon theme. You've got Hanzo and Alexstrasza. And it's really cool because her trait has a 120-second cooldown. And every 120 seconds, you can go into dragon form and play as a dragon, which I think players are really going to like. She gets a spell power buff to all of her abilities and increased hit points during that time as well.
Yeah, I actually got to play Alexstrasza, and it's a really cool ability. I mean, you feel super powerful, and it definitely, she starts hitting like a truck and healing like, I don't know, like nobody's business, but it's really cool, and that is definitely the biggest model they have in the game, and it's very similar to how Ragnaros operates with his trait. Obviously, it starts on the cooldown when you start the game, but you're able to activate it relatively early in the game and kind of turn some fights.
Yeah, for sure. It looks really cool. I've only gotten to see it just briefly messing around against the AI, but I do like the dragon flavor of it. I got legit goosebumps during the intro when she came up over that building in dragon form. It was everything I wanted from that cinematic.
Yeah, that cinematic was really interesting, and they actually had heroes like truly interact with each other from different universes. Obviously, Overwatch and Warcraft crossing paths now. And Alexstrasza is kind of teaching Hanzo the ways of the Nexus and stuff like that, and it's really cool to see. There were a lot of really cool skins as well, obviously, as a part of this. There was a ton of stuff announced, and we haven't even scratched the surface. And the interesting thing is they put out the video and flashed a bunch of things that are coming in 2018.
Right. Well, and speaking of that video too, like we haven't had a chance to talk about this, but at the end of the video when Alexstrasza and Hanzo are like looking into the Nexus, those different portals open up. What did you make of that? Do you think that's something like I couldn't see them well enough on the screen to quite make out exactly what they all were?
Yeah, I think Nineball was talking about it with me a bit earlier, but he was thinking maybe it's some sort of single player kind of content potentially coming to the game, because the presenter was basically alluding to that we're just barely scratching the surface of the future of Heroes. So we'll have to see what kind of content they're coming out with, and I think single player content will bring more people into the fold of Heroes and maybe potentially bring them into playing competitive and playing in the matchmaking system and stuff like that, and ease people into that. Kind of like how Hearthstone is doing that as well, I feel like, with a bigger emphasis on their expansion, having single-player stuff.
Yep. So, obviously, other than the new heroes, the biggest news is probably the performance-based matchmaking. What are your thoughts on that?
I am super stoked about this, and if you know who Carl is, not a lot of people know who Carl is. Not Carl from Power Hour, but Gilly's husband, Carl, is a really smart guy, big programmer, and he was talking to me about how it's basically already in the game in the form of those stats that pop up at the end where you performed better than X% of players. So that data already exists for Blizzard to pull from, and they just have to implement it now. And I'm really hoping that this brings a lot of more positivity to ranked play. I mean, I've kind of taken a step back from playing Hero League, but this will definitely make me want to play more, and I think it'll encourage players who they see that the game is kind of starting to fall apart. They're like, oh, I don't know about this. We're not going to win. We're not going to win. I'm just going to lose MMR anyways. Now it's like I want to keep trying harder so I don't lose my MMR and potentially turn it around. So continuing the trend of 6.5 out of 10, no comeback mechanics, obviously.
Yeah, I think I think the fact that, yes, there is some individual component to it, again, will help. Even if you're on a bad team, it gets toxic, you can at least look at your own performance and be like, okay, I exceeded expectations. I probably came out of this okay. But I'm also... I want to be optimistic. I think it's going to be good. I have faith in them. But the fact that it is based on the stats and what goes into the MMR and commendation system, that also, or the matchmaking, MVP and the commendation system, does make me a little bit apprehensive in the fact that you do occasionally see some weird commendations, some weird MVPs. I just don't want it to be too easily gamed where people can just focus on things that they know is going to help their personal performance rating.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaming the system, I think, is a huge concern. Yeah. I'm sure Blizzard is well aware of that. And my other concern is I've been playing mostly Warrior, but I also have played support quite a bit in my time in Heroes. Support's kind of the hardest class to really judge on, oh, how well did you do?
Right.
Oh, you kept people alive, but did you do better than other people in your similar MMR, I guess, is what it's going towards. So I'm excited to see what it does for the ecosystem of competitive Hero League and Team League going forward into 2018.
And I think some of the other changes they're making kind of ties in nicely with it. They're making changes to how the lanes work and different things like that. And I think a lot of the contention, whenever people complain about their teammates or people not participating, very often it's specialist types, whether they're playing specialist heroes or just playing like a specialist and just PvEing a lane. That, I think, is a sore spot to a lot of heroes or a lot of players, and the fact that now these laning changes may combat some of the potential pitfalls of this system if it were to be rolled out under the old way the game played.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the other kind of just bullet points they flew past in that video, along with stealth changes. And I was reading that a lot of the stealth heroes are getting a pretty massive rework. Zeratul is getting a bunch of stuff, and I'm sure we'll have it up on the site, but there's some stuff he's getting baseline now. Shadow Assault's getting changed, obviously, because it hasn't worked out for him. But the other thing that I found was interesting, and I was surprised that was in the build that I played, is voice chat is coming to Heroes of the Storm, built into the client.
Yeah, and they've talked about the need for that, and it's just going to be seamlessly integrated. What I heard is that there's going to be two modes. You'll have party chat, and then you'll have team chat. So if you and I are paired up and we go into quick match, we're automatically going to have our chat turned on. And then when we join into a group, the team chat, you're going to have to opt in rather than opt out. So that way, if you don't want to be in it, it's automatically default turned off. And if you want to talk to your teammates, you just toggle it on, and there you go.
Yeah, I think that's good, just creating as a few barriers to entry for people to be able to communicate with the team. They have it built into the Battle.net app, but
all the tools
still
are there.
You're having to alt-tab out and stuff like that.
Right,
so
and you have to be friends with them and all that. So.
Et cetera. But yeah, what I found funny was I sat down in the public queue over here, and I start hearing
You're like, I'm hearing voices.
I'm like, wait, because I didn't expect the chat to be built into this build of the game, and it was really nice. But I guess the other thing we haven't really touched on, we just briefly touched on, was Hanzo, also playable on the show floor. What do you think of him?
It's tough because I don't play much of Hanzo in Overwatch, so I'm kind of coming in with a blank slate because I don't have a lot of history, and I don't know the names of the abilities, but his ricochet arrow is super cool. Have you seen the way that you can target it? You have to bounce it off of something, and then you get a multi-pronged targeting thing, so it's sort of like incorporating Kel'Thas's chains into a ricochet, like you have to target something and then immediately pick where it's going to bounce back. Oh, Kel'Thas,
the real KT.
The other one, too many KTs. So I thought that was actually really fun. It's also really tricky, but I think it's a really cool mechanic. It's
one of those cool things that will really reward skilled players.
For sure.
And I think that's always welcome in Heroes. I feel like there were other things that they briefly mentioned in the video.
And we'll learn much more tomorrow in the deep dive panel.
Oh, absolutely.
But one thing that I wanted to briefly touch on, if you've heard that some of the stealth heroes are getting buffed, don't freak out because they're also going to be much more visible. Have you seen the new silhouette?
I have seen that, and I was kind of looking out for that. There was a Zeratul
they're going to be super easy to spot.
Now,
you still have to hit them with a skill shot, but it's not going to be an eye test anymore. It's not going to be tricky. They're going to be blatantly obvious, and so that's why they're compensating them with some other buffs, because they have to have something to offset that vulnerability, I guess.
Yeah, most definitely. But make sure to stay tuned to BlizzPro.com. We'll have so much more on all the Heroes of the Storm announcements, breakdowns to Alex Straza, Hanzo, and all the new features coming in 2018 for Heroes of the Storm.
For more BlizzCon 2017 coverage, check us out at BlizzPro.com. Subscribe to us here on YouTube, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at BlizzPro.